We're going to talk about team formation, obviously, but I'm also going to get talk generally about investment criteria so that we can get to why the team is so important and how we think about the team.
Super.
And so at the Bitcoin Frontier Fund, we have kind of like 8 aspects to our thesis that we look to invest in outstanding teams who are building new use cases for Bitcoin. And the first thesis is that we're looking for teams who can find an easy way to do something difficult, not a difficult way to do something difficult, that they have a clever and smart way to achieve something ambitious. The second is the ability to make hard choices. So, entrepreneurship is going to be full of hard choices, and that actually doesn't require intelligence. And I think neither and does an easy way to do something difficult. I think they both require some kind of other X factor, which is what we're looking for in top entrepreneurs. Also having a plan with minimal tech and effort needed to get lots of users that's related to having an easy way to do something difficult. We're not looking for a business where you're going to build the entire kitchen sink and that's how you get your first user. No, we're looking for minimal tech to get lots of users. Balanced team composition, which we'll really dive into today. Of course, that follows up with a balanced equity share. How coachable are you? Can we actually teach you to fish rather than having to, keep, can you be a self-starter, right? But also someone who is coachable. Getting shit done right the first time, and also having a low burn. And for an investor, you shouldn't need the investor to survive. Like no investor wants to invest in a company where the team won't survive without their investment, or won't even work on their idea full time without their investment. No, I mean table stakes for getting investment is that you're already working full time and that you can survive on your own. Investors are looking for the upside. Okay, and so teams who can find easy ways to do something difficult. This is the first thing that we look for. And this comes from a couple of people I respect, or I respect less after I got after I get into Bitcoin. Of course, before I got into Bitcoin, Warren Buffett had never done any wrong, and Warren Buffett, of course, one of the smartest investors in the world. Of course, doesn't understand technology, and now we find out. But still a lot we can learn from Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. And Warren Buffett, one time he said he doesn't look for he doesn't look to jump over 7-foot bars. This is how he invests. He doesn't look to jump over 7-foot bars. He looks around for a 1-foot bar that he can step over. Okay, this is an easy way to do something difficult. Like Bill Gates, he said, I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. Okay, I think I actually said that you always find a lazy programmer to solve a difficult problem because a lazy programmer will find an easy way to do it. And so, there's so many times where I think entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur is a form of self-actualization. It's a form of creating something for nothing. It's a form of, setting a dream and achieving it. And I think entrepreneurs very often are good at the setting the dream part, but they're not as good at the how do I achieve this in a very easy way part, right? And so I often see so many entrepreneurs where they're just like, it's like kind of like the joke in South Park where it's like, step 1, do something. Step 2, question mark, question mark, question mark. Step 3, like make a lot of money, right? It's like if you actually have a very pragmatic and practical step-by-step plan and you found an easy way to do something difficult, like that is awesome, right? The opposite is, being focused on achieving something difficult but not doing it in an easy way. And so we're looking for the founders who are not, don't have a chip on their shoulder. I mean, a chip on their shoulder is good, but if you express that by, trying to climb the biggest mountain just because it's the biggest, as opposed to, finding a very easy way to achieve something great, you're doing this wrong, right? You're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're trying to fulfill your ego instead of trying to fulfill to actually create something that is separate from yourself and your ego. Right. So we're looking for entrepreneurs who want to find the easy way to do something difficult. You can choose the path, right? Like opportunity cost. It's if you spend longer to look at a lot of different ideas and then you find the one that's simple, that's easy, and it's not necessarily about making money easy. I mean, that can be part of it, but really about creating value easy, being a product that people are going to need and use that has a low technical requirement. You know, this goes back to judgment, right? IQ versus judgment. Judgment is the ability to make good decisions. IQ is the ability to find patterns, fluid intelligence. If you have good judgment, you will take the easy road to the promised land rather than the difficult one for the sake of it. Okay. So the second thing we look for is ability to make hard choices. And this often just comes down to, cutting things, right? Comes down to pivoting, changing your strategy, cutting your burn, being able to cut a team member that you really care about, for the sake of the business. Cutting features from your product. Okay. You have to, like, less features are better. Okay. I actually have a few portfolio companies where they didn't have product market fit and then they cut features and then they found product market fit, not by adding features, right? So the ability to cut things, to focus, to prioritize, saying no, discipline, cutting good things that are exciting when you're over capacity. These are all hard choices that make or break the best founders. Okay. And when we always say, when you think you're done cutting, cut again. And it comes down to like a pattern that I see just so way too much in the startup scene, which is that founders are doing multiple things, right? It's like, and the thing is that if you chase two rabbits, both will escape, right? You have to commit, you have to focus, don't hedge. And the way you arrive at committing is by doing your research and homework and strategy, applying the lean startup method to figure out what is the right go-to-market path. Okay. And sometimes if you sometimes you may not be able to know, in which case you just need to have more experience perhaps. And that maybe just something like, the reality of the world that you won't know if you're going in the right direction. You have to make a bet, at least bet on chasing one rabbit, right? Don't chase two rabbits. You're going to be guaranteed to go hungry if you chase two rabbits. There will always be some risk in doing startups. You can mitigate the risk by using lean startup method and other methods to validate your market. But sometimes you can't validate it fully, or you may not have the experience to know if you validate it fully. But you can only choose one thing to do, and hedging by doing multiple things will always lead to failure. Okay. The third thing, minimal tech and effort needed to get lots of users. We're looking at quality, not quantity. It's not how many features you have in your product. It's how many world-class features. You don't get, and it's not how many team members you have in your team. It's how many world-class team members you have. You don't get credit for numbers in a small startup. You get credit for quality. And so if you want to find product market fit with a new startup, you should aim for one world-class feature. Try to identify one feature that can have product market fit and make it world-class in your product. But once you have one world-class feature, you can create a simple world-class product, right? You can go from a world-class feature to a world-class product much more easily than going from nothing to a world-class product, which you probably can't do. And from a world-class product, you can go to a world-class company, right? Step by step. And so, again, when it comes to, how many features should your product have, you only get credit for the world-class features. You need at least, like, if we're looking to invest, or anyone's looking to invest really, one world-class feature is worth more than 5 normal features. Like, your product can have 1 million features. We don't care unless it has one world-class feature that has product market fit that users really care about, this better than every other product in the market. Okay. Inertia. Every feature and every service is a liability to your time. It's like adding a weight vest. The more you build, the more you have to maintain. The larger the scope, the longer it's going to take to get to market. Timing is the most important factor in success. And so be very, very careful about the features that you choose to build in your product. There's some examples of some companies in the Stacks ecosystem, our portfolio, who were very good at launching very simple single feature products, right? This is Stacks Force. They created a chess app with on the Stacks network. And the way they did it, it was just, authentication with the wallet, and they used the Lichess API. So they didn't recreate a whole chess game. They just used an existing chess game, and then they added, authentication and betting through Stacks tokens on top. There's just a couple features, and they're able to get this up very quickly and make it fully satisfying for end users to figure out, hey, is this good enough? Is it worth it? This is LN swap. Again, a very simple, what single feature. It's like, hey, let me use Lightning to swap stacks for Bitcoin using atomic swaps from one chain to the other. Okay, very, very simple, single feature. A single bridge, right? A single feature bridge swapping one token for another can generate hundreds of millions of dollars in volume, right? Imagine that, a single feature that could create hundreds of millions of dollars in value, a bridge that, things could go across. How great is that? It's like very simple. The scope is very small. The potential is high. That's the kind of thing that you're looking for, right? Arcadico, another one of our portfolio companies, very simple. You lock up Stacks tokens. I think you can also lock up Bitcoin now as well. And you will get a stable coin, and you will also earn a yield on that stable coin that will pay off the loan. So instead of taking out a loan, locking up, you're locking up collateral, you're getting a loan, and the loan is paying itself off, which is great. Very simple. All right, so now we're going to talk about balanced team composition. Okay, this is what probably most relevant for everybody in the hackathon right now. So what is a balanced team? What are the best teams look like? Well, the best teams are 3 people. Okay, and I'm going to talk about why the best teams are 3 people here in a second. And the best teams have 3 people who have a diverse skill set. Okay, and we call this the hustler, the hacker, and the hipster. Okay, other roles are not essential. You need a hustler, you need a hacker, and you need a hipster in order to create a $1 billion company, right? That's how it starts. And so you're looking for, of course, the hustler is the business person, the hacker is the technologist, and the hipster is the product design. Also should be technical, and ideally, all 3 people are technical. And that's because you're looking for a T-shaped team. An I-shaped person is an expert at one thing. That's the worst you can have for a startup. Okay. In the beginning of a startup, and you have if 3 people, you're doing everything. Okay, you're doing everything, and so having someone who's an expert at one thing and they are terrible at everything else, that's not going to work. Okay. In addition, a generalist is a lot better, actually. Having a generalist is a lot better, capable in a lot of things, but not an expert in any. But the ideal is a T-shaped person, capable of a lot of things and an expert in one of them. And some of the best founders are actually not only T-shaped, but they are expert in a few things. Like a different kind of marketing, a certain type of development, etc. This is the type of people that you're looking for in the early stages of a startup, is people who can be a generalist and an expert. Okay, in the hacker, hipster, hustler model. Okay, and so the hustler, business person who can handle the operations, who can do marketing, can do fundraising, can do hiring. Man, it's hard being that CEO. Let me tell you, it's the hardest job. Like, I've done it so many times. I'd prefer not to do it, but I'm doing it. It's really hard to be a good startup CEO. In fact, the skill cap for a startup CEO is super, super high compared to the other roles. The CTO, the backend person who's building the core IP, the smart contracts, the data science, if you're doing blockchain analysis, etc. This is like really the person who's building your core IP. And this person should be as well, like full stack, able to do some front end. Not necessary for do perfect front end, because you should have a perfect front end engineer who is also understands back end. So the hipster, again, design is less important than front end engineering for sure. Like having someone who can create a front end product that looks professional. It's like the front of your store. It's like, it's like if you have a good front end, it's like shopping at the Apple store, at Grand Central Station, where it's like a, beautiful shopping experience. That's what a lot of investors are going to look at. They're going to only see your front end. A lot of customers as well, they're only going to see your front end. They don't know how amazing your core IP and backend is. Only they know based on the front end. That's how they're judging you. So it's really important you have a front end co-founder, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, ideally good at copywriting and kind of understanding product. With single page applications, a front end engineer is a programmer. They are an engineer. And they should understand some back end databases, etc. T-shaped again. But this is like the team. This is like the holy grail team here. This is the three amigos. This is the ideal composition. If you can find this, like you have everything you need, you're gonna be super capital efficient, and you're going to, like, as long as you find the right opportunity, you use the lean startup method to identify what people need, you'll probably knock it out of the park. Okay. Now, these are the common teams that I see, which end up not working well. Okay, like two hackers, two back end engineers, like no business person, no front end, no design. Like this team is like better than the other wrong team compositions, but it's gonna be very difficult for this team. Okay, like you have no business people to do marketing, you're not gonna have any users. You have no person to do the front end, so there's going to be bugs. It's going to be confusing. The UX, it's not going to look professional. So, an investor is going to be like, okay, like come back and talk to me when, you have when you're making a serious effort here. Two hackers is not, who can only do back end is not a great team, unfortunately. Even worse though, is three hustlers and a hacker, like three business people and one, engineer. Oh my God. Stay away from me, please. Like that's going to be a very difficult, impossible team composition. Okay. And so real quick, let me talk about why 3 is such a magic number for team composition. Talked about the hacker, the hipster, and the hustler. And let me get into the team of 3. Let's see here. Okay. All right, here we go. And for those of you listening on the Twitter Spaces, of course, there is a YouTube live stream pinned to the top. If you haven't been watching, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about because I am sharing slides right now. And so why is the team of 3? Like I talked about the hacker, the hipster, the hustler. I say this teams all the time, and I still find that they have teams of 2. And I'm like, guys, like get a third person on your team. A team of 3 is something really special, even compared to a team of 2. A team of 4, though, don't do it. I mean, maybe you can do a team of 4, but really, team of 3 is where things get special because, of course, time and resources, of course. But let me go a little bit deeper. So, the whole idea of building a startup or having a team is that you don't have to do something alone. Okay, you wouldn't go rock climbing alone. You wouldn't go skydiving alone. Why would you try to create something from nothing alone, right? You wouldn't try to carry like heavy furniture up the stairs into your apartment, right? Startups are a heavy lift. Startups are a heavier lift than carrying any furniture you've ever carried in your life. It's grueling, it's difficult, and so you need some people to help you, right? And there's something magical about the number 3. For example, just how to even the perception of reality. Okay. If you guys have, know how GPS works, like how does GPS work on your phone? Well, you have a cell tower, and that cell tower can measure where, that you are visible within a certain range. So if you can connect to a cell tower, it knows that you're within a certain distance away from it, right? But for GPS, this would be super inaccurate. Like you wouldn't like just connecting to one cell tower, they wouldn't be able to tell like where you are within any realistic or useful number. But if you add 2 cell towers, now both cell towers know that you're connecting, and so they know that you must be within the overlap of those 2 cell towers. Okay, they can get your location much more accurately, right? But now you add 3 cell towers. Guess what? 3 is a magic number. It can pinpoint your location for GPS in a super accurate, like within, 10 meters. I mean, obviously it depends, but having 3 cell towers to determine where your location is orders of magnitude more effective than 2 cell towers. Okay. You can actually pinpoint where you are based on triangulation, right? So, discovering a market opportunity, discovering where product market fit is, discovering how to go to market and to introduce a new product with the right features. More difficult than figuring out where somebody is, with cell towers. More uncertain, less visibility into the market. It's all abstract. It's all in our minds. So having 3 people makes a big difference. In addition, you need 3 colors, okay, to identify another color, right? All colors that exist can be determined by a shade of red, green, and blue. Okay, it's called RGB. So if you are a front end person or a designer, you know that the RGB colors, like any color can be determined by 3 colors, right? If you have 2 colors, you can't determine any color. If you have 1 color, of course, you can't determine any color. But 3 colors, red, green, and blue, you can determine all colors in the known visible universe. Okay, so we have like, between red and green is yellow, between red and purple, pink, and blue, and white. 3 dimensions, right? Okay, in addition, 2D shapes and 3D shapes. Okay. Now, if you are looking in 2 dimensions, like 2 people, the analogy, you might see a circle. But if you are looking in 3 dimensions, you would see a very different shape. A circle in 2 dimensions can be a cone, it can be a sphere, it can be a cylinder. Okay. So a circle in a 2-dimensional field, in a 3-dimensional field, could be a cone, a sphere, and a cylinder. It can be completely different than what you see in a 2-dimensional field. All right. A square can be a block, it can be a cube, it can be a prism, it can be a pyramid. A square in a 2-dimensional field can literally be a pyramid in a 3-dimensional field, or a prism, or a cube. Right. So having a third dimension, having a third perspective can dramatically change what you're looking at. Okay. Just as an observation of reality. Okay. 3 people can change how you view reality. And startups are an optical illusion, right? If you guys have ever seen the black and white dress, is it black or gold? Sorry, black or gold. This dress, is it blue or gold? It's black and white, or white and gold. The old woman versus young woman, optical illusion, the duck or the rabbit. There's, when you're trying to create a product that lots of people use, it's hard. And especially with, you don't have a lot of resources. Again, 95% of startup ideas fail. You need to solve the optical illusion of the market in order to be successful. And having multiple perspectives is going to be very, very helpful in that. Okay, this is the black and blue dress versus the white and gold dress. A simple change in the colors around it can change the perception of the color of the actual dress. So, looking at these optical illusions, like the old woman versus the young woman, or the duck or the rabbit, of course, those are, on a piece of paper, but in real life, there are plenty of optical illusions. And in the market, there are even more optical illusions. It's just full of optical illusions. So having multiple perspectives can save you a lot. Okay. Reality is not as clear as we think. Okay. Now that's just about that was just making the point about determining what is reality. Okay. Having 3 perspectives, with the number 3 is magical when it comes to determining reality in so many aspects of our lives. In addition, when it comes to just pure logistics, there are so many jobs, so many goals, so many tasks, which cannot be done with fewer than 3 people. Okay. You cannot operate a submarine with fewer than 3 people. You need a navigator, you need a life support systems engineer, you need a propulsion systems engineer. If you have 2 people, a submarine cannot be operated. Okay. Why do people think they can operate a startup, without 3 people, to bring a product to market without 3 people? Okay. A fire can't be fought with less than 3 people. If you have a fire and you're fighting a fire, you need someone to operate the hose, someone to search for survivors, and someone to support the team. And if you're within 3 people, you cannot fight a fire. A large facility cannot be secured with fewer than 3 people. In order to secure a large facility, you need someone to patrol the perimeter, someone to patrol the interior, and someone to monitor the cameras. Okay, if you have fewer than 3 people, you cannot secure a large facility. A surgery can't be done with fewer than 3 people. You need a surgeon, you need an anesthetician, and you need a surgical assistant. Otherwise, you can't do a surgery with fewer than 3 people. Okay, startups are hard. Startups are as hard as doing a surgery. I mean, more surgeries are successful than startups. That's for sure. 95% of startups fail. I would hope 95% of surgeries are successful because they don't do them with less than 3 people. And so when it comes to having types of teams, okay, we see it all the time. We basically just look at the cap table, just look at like how did you assign equity to know how good your team is. But if you have 3 members of a team make a triangle, and you have one all-star on your team, you have a very like long and short triangle. Okay, it's one all-star on the team and 2 junior people. That's assuming you even have 3 people. We see teams all the time with one kind of all-star person and one junior person. The triangle isn't even complete. If you have 2 all-stars, you also have a really short triangle, bigger than the one all-star. But when you have 3 all-stars on your team, all 3 people are of equal caliber, T-shaped, balanced skill sets, and equal experience and achievements. You have a massive triangle. Okay, this is the triangle that you want to be building. Okay, 3 all-stars. There's also some smaller things like, again, like having, if you have 2 votes, like you can't, if you have like 2 team members, 2 co-founders, sometimes it's hard to make decisions because you only have 2 votes and you can't like have a tiebreaker. 3 votes can break a tie. 4 votes, again, very challenging. Like odd numbers are always better for initial teams because you can have a vote and you have an odd number of people. You can win a certain perspective. And so how do you recruit a team member? Like how do you find team members for today's hackathon? How do you find a team member for your startup? Well, it's really just simple. It's really just like hitting the phones. Calling the 5 best people that you've ever worked with is always like what I recommend. If you are trying to look for someone to work with, like call up the 5 best people that you've ever worked with. Being very open to work with different people, of course, helps. I always recommend like calling to catch up with best people that you work with on a regular basis. Tell them what you're doing, ask them what their goals are, ask for referrals. Always try dating when you're building a team. Like, don't make a huge commitment at the start. Don't like get someone and be like, hey, you're gonna be my co-founder. This is the name of the idea. This is what you're gonna build. It's like, no, like allow someone to become a part of your team, right? Allow someone to um, share in the spiritual attainment that you can gain from building something out of nothing. Like, start by dating, but you want to kind of, uh, involve someone and let the idea become their idea, right? The worst way to recruit people to your team is to go up to them and say, "This is the name of the idea. This is what the idea is. Do you want to join?" Like, no one is going to join that, right? The best way is to go to somebody and involve them and and like, give them half of the puzzle and let them come up with the rest of the puzzle. You know what I mean? That way you can get someone involved. Always be generous with equity, but recruit people who are worth it. Sweat equity is better than cash. Even if you had the cash, like, would you hire a salesperson without a commission? No. So why would you, fully pay someone as a co-founder without any sweat equity or small equity? They need to want the equity because they believe this is a life-changing opportunity for them. Of course, idea inception help someone to become an owner of the idea. This is like giving someone the piece of the puzzle. If you look at how Steve Jobs recruits, if you've ever studied how Steve Jobs recruits some of the best people in the world, he spends a lot of time like, recruiting C-level people, executives to his company. He spent a lot of time, and he would always, incept the idea. He would like kind of get people. He would have an idea already, but he would get people to come to the same idea and also think it was their idea. And that's how he recruited people. And so you need to be recruiting someone on your own level, right? And you have to approach them as if like if you're approaching someone on your own level, think about what you would be required of to join someone else's startup, right? Or someone else's team. What would your requirements be? Like, you probably wouldn't want to work for somebody. You'd probably want to be a shared spiritual owner and a shared equity owner at a high level to join someone else's team. So if you want to recruit someone as good as yourself, well, then that person is going to require the same things, right? So think about what your requirements be to join someone else's startup, and then assume that if you're approaching the best people, that they're going to have the same requirements as you. Like, um, let someone else, like have an idea baby with somebody, have a vision baby with somebody. Okay. You're co-creating when you're on a team. And yeah, no one is smart enough to be on their own. Like nobody. So those are the lessons of idea inception. We have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to go over the rest of the presentation. So I hope that convinced you guys about team composition, 3 people, how to recruit them, what are the roles you're looking for. Again, ideal team right here, business back end, front end, really good marketing, business person, social media, hiring, ops, fundraising, back end, the core IP, smart contracts, the complex stuff, the front end, the product, the API, receiving data. These are the roles that are going to allow you to introduce a product that could take off exponentially. Okay. Of course, balanced equity share is something that we look at Bitcoin Frontier Fund. We're always looking at how you split equity. And we're going to ask you, okay, here's the equity of each person in your company. Why did you split equity that way? That's the most interesting question, I think, that you can learn about a startup is what is the equity and why do you split it that way? If it's not split in a fair way and there's not based on people's commitment, compensation, and contribution, there's going to be problems in the future with that company, right? If people are not compensated and aligned to their commitment, you're going to have team problems, right? And so that's why we want to look at how the equity is split. It can also tell us, hey, did the team members value each other? Are they 3 all-stars or is it 1 all-star or 2 all-stars? Okay. And so this is like the worst equity split that I always see. And like, it's like, whenever I see like the first question in the meeting, I ask this equity split, I see this equity split. I'm like, oh God, okay. Like, normally I would just like end the meeting there if I was in a founder role, but since I'm in a VC role, I'm like, okay, I need help. I need to try and help. I try to ask some questions, walk it through. But like whenever we see a CEO with 90% and 2 other co-founders with 5%, it's just like, come on, man. Who do you think you're fooling? Like these aren't co-founders. You know what I mean? It's a one man show or one woman show. Unfair equity splits tell us that your team is not good or not committed enough to demand more equity. If your team members were better, if they were more committed, they would demand more equity. That's just logical. So we also are not a fan of like a perfect equity split, like a perfectly equal equity split, unless the teams have like exited a previous company together or worked together in a startup before. I think that is more acceptable. But this just shows us like there's no decision maker, there's no boss. It's not clear like who's in the end responsible. And maybe this team has difficulty having hard conversations because splitting equity equally is just like, avoiding a hard conversation. Again, you need to have hard conversations for a team to be successful. Otherwise, important things are going to be glossed over. Okay. Equal equity splits when the team hasn't worked together before tell us they're not able to have hard conversations. Okay. So here's like a healthy range that we kind of like look at. Again, there's no rules here. There's multiple factors. Someone joining late could completely change their equity distribution. This is why we always ask the question, like, why? And so with 2 co-founders, again, ideally you don't have 2 co-founders. Please go for 3. 30 to 70 to 45 to 55, assuming they're starting at the same time. 3 co-founders, 30, 30, 40 to 20, 20, 60. Okay, so once we see like a founder with like more than 60% and 2 co-founders with less than 20% each, assuming that they didn't start at the same time, assuming they started at the same time, then then we start to ask questions, right? We start to get suspicious. Okay, so finally, actually 2 more things that we look for that makes a great team. They can be taught how to fish. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Coachability is an individual's willingness and ability to seek, be receptive to, and act on constructive feedback. to drive individual development and improve performance. That's the definition of coachability. It's why we love founders who are coachable, because they are able to drive individual development and improve performance through getting feedback. And the best founders in our portfolio are extremely coachable. In fact, they are not like coachable where I approach them and coach and give them feedback and they improve. They are reaching out to coaches constantly and seeking feedback. They force you to coach them. Okay. And some of these founders who are extremely coachable are also some of the oldest founders in our portfolio in their 40s. In fact, we found that the older the founder, sometimes the more hungry they are for knowledge. Okay. You would think that the more experienced founders are less hungry for knowledge, but the more hungry founders actually know how to learn very efficiently, and they don't waste time and they get to the point because they have that experience. And so among the best founders in our portfolio, which do tend to be a bit older, of course, there's actually founders who are successful in our portfolio 50 companies at every age level, but there's more in the 40 and above level because they've been doing this for a while and they have experience, and they can raise capital, etc. The ones who are older tend to have more intellectual humility to admit that they don't know anything. Right. And maybe that's part of being in the tech industry. They're like, oh, all the young kids, TikTok, everything. I don't know anything. Please teach me. But I just thought it would be worth pointing out how important coachability is in success of founders directly from data that we have in our portfolio and my personal life's experience. Okay. So being coachable is someone who understands criticism is not personal. Okay. Like whenever you try to ask a founder about their idea and they get defensive, red flag right away. Right. Coachable person understands criticism is not personal. They respond positively to criticism by listening and applying feedback. They want to engage in negative feedback. They want to explore how they could be wrong. Right. A coachable person is not looking to confirm their idea or confirm their beliefs. They're looking to see if their ideas are right so they can improve them. Okay. And a coachable person applies what they've been taught to improve their game. An uncoachable person takes criticism personally. They become defensive when receiving feedback, and they fail to apply what they've been taught. Okay. And this is this is more important than intelligence. This is a different kind of intelligence, but it's more important than, being an engineer who can optimize a system to the maximum of its efficiency, right? It's someone who can solve a Rubik's Cube in 5 seconds will fail every day, whereas a person who's extremely coachable will succeed every day in the startup game, right? Okay. So you can improve coachability, of course. Coachability, there's a kind of a process where you go from, highly resistant to resistant to then confused, right? So you're at first, as someone is getting into a mode of high performance, at first they're just resistant. They don't do anything. They're dysfunctional. They're fixed. Once they start to get ready, there's a period of confusion, of learning, of having moderate awareness, but doesn't have an ability to change it. And then finally, you go to an open mindset. That's the growth mindset, high performance mindset, from an open to a rapid learning mindset, which is the fast track to develop and improve and apply critical analysis. Okay, and so
Trevor, this is awesome. We have about a minute left before the panel starts.
awesome. Okay,
Gotcha.
so I'll wrap it up. We're looking for teams that things get easier over time, that you get better over time. If we check in monthly, we see that, hey, things are harder. Things are the same difficulty as they were before. That will happen in moments, but generally things should be getting easier. And finally, getting shit right done the first time. Okay, if you ship a one of the benefits of doing a minimum viable product is that you can have it be good. If you limit the scope of what you're doing and what you do everything to a high standard, you'll be more successful than trying to do too many things, right? And so we're looking for founders who they ship an MVP, they have a product live, okay, that it is not buggy, I'd rather have fewer features and no bugs, okay, that you have good marketing, you focus on a good launch, that you shill your bags, shill your startup. We love founders who are on Twitter Spaces talking about what they're doing. Of course, not getting traction, not being momentum, not being prepared. And finally, low burn. Listen, if you are a founder, you should be taking a salary less than your your full-time job. Unless you can afford it. Okay. Unless you've raised like a seed round or series A, then we always recommend you should pay yourself, and you should pay yourself the most you can afford it as a founder, because you've really earned it. But in the start, when you're just getting going, you need to be very conservative with revenue. You need to be willing to invest personally, be working full time, small team, earning revenue possible. 10 months of runway, no less.